Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Emily and today we are going to be going through my 2022 reading statistics. So I had to write them down because my phone is currently in use as I'm using it to film. So I wrote down all the statistics that I have for my reading. Here they are, all highlighted and everything. In total, for my 2022 year, I read 81 books. So if you go on I think on my Goodreads it will probably say about 79 or 80. I think it accidentally missed a couple of books and I'm not 100% sure which books they missed. The best month of my reading was February with 11 books. And my worst month was December with 3 books. So you can see the gradual decline in my reading. But hopefully this year it's starting pretty high. I read 6 books in January. I've already read 2 this month and it's only like the 5th or 6th day of February at the moment. Also, my page count for the year was at 29,768 pages. Best month for pages was February with 4,035 pages. And my worst month, surprisingly, was not December, but it was August with 1,127. I think December got close, but August was the lowest. So I think I might have read a few books, but they were quite small books, so that's why it didn't translate that way. The average page, like the page length of books I read, was between 300 and 400 pages. I read pretty more like average size books. I didn't go too big and too small, whatever. Genres of note of the 81 books I read, so 34 of those were fantasy. It's like half, nearly half, but at least it's not half. I'm hoping that this year I read a lot less fantasy and a lot more contemporary romance, but I'm not sure. Maybe mystery as well. 14 of those books were mystery books. 14 of the 81 books were mystery. But the thing is that 13 were a series of unfortunate events. So that means I really read one fantasy book. One mystery book, which was Big Little Lies, but still. And 14 of the 81 books were romance. Picking up my romance a bit more, which is good. For the target audience of the books that range, middle grade, young adult, and adult, 22 were middle grade, 34 were young adult, and 25 were adult. Is there a correlation there that's like, oh yeah, 34 young adult, 34 fantasy? Am I reading a lot of... Yeah, most of those were fantasy, young adult fantasy. Can't stay away from it, but I'm definitely wanting to get away from it. But a lot of the books I own currently, and I'm trying to just read through the books I own, are fantasy set for a young adult. So let's try and move away from that this year, please. Rating. So I had 25 3-star ratings, 42 4-star ratings, 3 DNFs, and 6 5-star books. So I think I only had 1 or 2 in each 1 and 2 stars, so it wasn't really much to note there. But still, my goal is to DNF, not DNF more books. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna DNF a book because I need to DNF more books. But it's like, if I'm genuinely not interested in the book, I really just want to say, nah, I'm done, and move on with my life. So for the years that the books are published, I didn't really read anything before the 2000s last year, which was interesting to say the least. I think I read 2 that were in 1999, and that was a series of unfortunate events, because that was just how they published. And so I read pretty much all my books were 2000 onwards. So 21 books were published in the 2000s, 34 were published in the 2010s, and 24 were published in the 2020s. And only having 2 years of 2020 releases, 2 to 3 years of 2020 releases, that's pretty good. And of course, we have 34 fantasy, 34 young adult, and 34 in the 2010s. I'm living my 18-year-old dream of just reading all these young adult fantasy published in the 2010s. Obviously, that is not true, but still, you see the numbers. So the countries that I'm tracking where the authors are from, not where they were necessarily published, because they're 2 different things, and I kind of want to mark where the authors are. So 54 books were US, 13 were from the UK, 4 were from Australia, 3 from Ireland. It's a very random place that there's a lot of books that, like mainstream books, that actually come from Ireland. It's very surprising. 5 from Japan and 2 from New Zealand. So I feel like that was a pretty good range of books, yeah. And you can tell that the 5 from Japan are obviously from like the manga that I read last year. So I read 5 manga last year. That's pretty good. I've already read 2 in 2023, so hopefully there'll be some more. I'm trying to get in the habit of, like, if my partner is out like playing like a video game or watching something that I'm not really interested in on the TV, and like for us to spend time together, I want to like get like a manga and like read it while he's enjoying his media and I get to enjoy some media. And my husband was just like, oh, but like you're gonna run out of manga if you do that. You gotta buy more manga. I'm like, well, I've got graphic novels, or I can just read a normal book. Like, I've got plenty of books to pick from. Like, it doesn't have to be a manga. But I'm dedicating it at least to manga at the moment, so I can try and finish The Promised Neverland, as well as get into a bit more of Spy X Family, as well as Death Note. Need to also finish that one in 2022 as well. I bought 184 books. 184 books, which in total of books that I've read, 9.14% of those were read in 2022. Just under 10% of those. So I've probably read about 10. So I have 5 or 10. I think I read, no, math escapes me. So that's an interesting statistic. Type of books that I read. So 25 were a start of a series, 32 were continuing in the series, 5 were an end of a series, and 19 were standalones. 5 series that I ended last year. And that's pretty good, but still. Yeah. So hopefully I finish a lot more series this year, because that is really what I need to do. It's good that I'm getting into more standalones as well, because sometimes it's just a drag of a series can just get really put you in a slump. Sometimes, like, even if the series is good, like, you just read it and then it's like there's so much content, there's so much in the world that you're trying to learn and trying to memorize, and it just gets a bit too much and you just like hold the phone. But yeah, that's that. So those are my statistics for 2022. I'm looking forward to seeing how my 2023 reading will go. I kind of like doing, like, seeing a snapshot of what the year before was, so you can have an understanding of like what worked for you and what didn't work for you, and you can just like, you know, learn from it. So maybe one day I should just show what my Excel sheet looks like, because that is a very interesting, very over the top display of information, as you will. And I also use Notion to track some other things, like such as like my book buying and stuff like that. This is the end of the video. I hope you did enjoy this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Comment down below what was the most interesting statistic you found. I found that for me personally, like just the 34, it's just like we're going back to like 2014, 2012, whatever, where all these young adult fantasies were just taking over the globe. And like we had like Divergent, we had the Hunger Games, we had so much. So let's bring it back. And like, what's an interesting statistic that you had in like your reading over 2022? And subscribe if you want to see more of this. Next week, I will see you with a video about a readathon that I'm taking on the 2023, which I will also recap my reading over 2022 as well for that readathon. If you know what it is, you know what to expect. If you don't, well, stay tuned for it. And I will see you next week. Bye!